Hey, buddy, what is going on? Serial Overdrive here, and today we're going over some Rust console news. We're going to be talking about the Rust console patch 1.83. We're going to be going over the patch notes, going over all the things that matter, and skipping over the stuff you probably don't care about. Before we jump into the Rust console patch news, no, I'm not going to ask you to hit subscribe, but that would be nice. What I want to do is give a caveat. I'm in the middle of some conversations with the 11. I want to see just what's going on with this, but it seems like there might be a few bunkers that have been broken. So if after this patch you're trying to build a bunker base, test out that bunker works and confirm that you can actually get in and out of it before investing too much into it. The best way to do this is just jumping into a build server, but I want to get that out of the way right off the bat because a few people have messaged me already about bunkers not working. I'm not 100% sure if it's actually a bug or just like a slight change in the way building works and you got to reposition yourself and something people are going to be able to work around, or something that is going to leave a lot of designs unviable. But either way, it's best to make sure your base designs work before you put a lot of resources in and get really upset with the game, because that's going to happen eventually, but it's better it doesn't happen when you're first building your base. Anyways, let's get into the updates. So what we've got with patch 1.83 for the console edition Rust is a lot of sort of fixes and bug fixes and just a few little quality of life things, but nothing too crazy. There's been a few changes to things like recoil for certain guns and a few things that you do need to pay attention to. So let's get into all that. So they said they fixed a bug causing players to clip through terrain. They fixed a quick chat bug. They fixed players' bodies clipping through objects. There's a bunch of like FPS fixes. There's some that have to do with grenade launchers. And there's some issues where people get kicked when they do some sorting in a lock crate inventory. Players aren't able to kill other players who are sleeping inside the safe zone. So like you can't get trolled as much, but if you fall asleep inside the safe zone for too long, you're just going to die anyways. Again, there's some more FPS drops and issues caused around water and water jugs and all that have been fixed. They fixed a dead player model doing a T-pose bug. And, you know, as someone who's been playing a lot of Cyberpunk, I can definitely recognize a T-pose. I haven't seen a much in Rust, but hey, that's good. Junk pile scientists are no longer going to be floating above junk piles, which it's not really the best timing for it. I'd like if they did that after Halloween, but it is what it is. If you're one of those people with ADHD and you just mash buttons repeatedly, there's an issue that was fixed where you get soft locked. Scientist flashlights now switch on when night falls. I honestly thought the flashlights switching on a little bit like before night or whenever they really did it sort of made sense to me, because like, who waits for it to get completely dark before turning on their flashlight? Or maybe I've just got old man eyes. I don't know. Incendiary rockets now match the Steam version. They fixed a bug with rowboats because they were launching too high when detonated by explosives. So for those of you who are doing a space program with rowboats, that's no longer possible. Barrels no longer produce small white hit markers when attacked with a melee weapon. Half walls no longer go invisible when upgrading from twig to wood. There's been some head rotation fixes when it comes to sitting in a computer station. They fixed a bug that prevented horses from being able to gallop or auto canter. There's a few other horse fixes in here. I'm just going to skip over them and say horses have gotten a little bit better to use, but there's nothing crazy going on there. One very interesting one that I do want to call out, I want to call specific attention to this, is this. The reloading animation for other players is now visible. So this is actually pretty good, because I think before it was, I'm not even sure, like it's hard for me to remember, but I feel like, yeah, before when you were in a firefight, you couldn't see other players reloading. So now it's going to be more clear when people are reloading, which means that you're going to be even better off, right? Like if you're in an attack and you see someone start to do that reload animation, you know you've got a little bit of time to push forward to sort of make your play. And it's good that you can now see it start off. I think it's going to change the dynamics of firefights just a little bit. Sleeping player models now can visually be seen sleeping. They fixed a bug where players couldn't go through doors. Supply drop beacon is now visible while airborne. Now this one's interesting to me. Not the fact that the supply drop beacon is visible, but the fact that they said while airborne. That makes me think that something is being tested in the backdrop that we haven't heard about yet, because right now, unless you're running the space program through rowboats or something like that, you really have no business being airborne. But in this patch note, they say they fixed the supply drop beacon while airborne. So to me, there's a few things that could be going on here. First off, it could be something to do with just admin support. When people are doing custom servers, the characters are going to be able to fly around to get to different places and stuff like that. And that's why they thought it would be a good time to make supply drop beacons visible while you're airborne. More likely, though, in my opinion, is that hot air balloons are coming soon. So there's a November update that's supposed to be decent. I think we could see hot air balloons there, and I think there's caves coming along with it. We're going to get into why later. But I'm excited about this one. I'm really excited about this one because this little update, this little point, even though it isn't that much, it doesn't mean that much. The fact that they're talking about things being visible while airborne makes me think that there's something going on with flying, which would most likely be hot air balloons, and later you'd probably see mini copters. But yeah, hot air balloons are probably going to be the first ones that we see, and it seems like that might be coming out soon, along with caves. Again, we're going to get into caves later. Anyways, the next 2 gameplay updates under this really don't matter. It's just wire and hose can now be attached to the fluid pump / electrical branch, and POV is no longer occasionally underground when spawning in before waking up. Those don't matter. Monuments. Launch site ramp has now corrected collision, fixed a gap in the area below the rocket crane in the launch site, fixed crouching inconsistencies when trying to leave a certain vent on the launch site. Lights in watchtowers of the airfield have now have correct brightness. Players now can get dragged along by the cargo ship properly, so that's interesting. So basically, if you're one of those people who likes to take advantage of little things in monuments, this is really important. Scientist body bags spawn properly after cargo ship despawns. Airfield desk now has the correct rotation. I don't think that matters. Fixed a small gap at train yard that players could look and shoot through. There's a few of you that are probably taking advantage of that. So the train yard just got a little bit harder if you're trying to kill scientists. Fixed a bug where watchtower bandits stop shooting when a player stands in a specific corner. Workbench and bandit camp no longer has candles that clip. Bandit camp boat doors now match Steam Bandit. Bandits at bandit camp no longer miss shots when a player is standing close to them. Fixed small water catcher at outpost. Outpost lights now produce correct amount of light. Quarry and pump jack belt no longer stops abruptly. And oil rig scientist flashlights no longer shine through walls. So a few of those changes don't really matter, but I wanted to read off all sort of the monument changes because that does affect the way that you're playing the game. And for some of you, that's going to affect how you counter or even run these monuments. Now, let's just go over the world fixes. There's a bug that's been fixed with junk pile scientists where they'd stop patrolling. Rowboats can now be flipped back to their original position easier. The red X on trees no longer moves as sporadically, and the red X on the palm tree is easier hit. I'm going to believe that when I see it, but it would be nice. They fixed a bug that caused animals to be inside buildings and running through closed doors. I've never seen that, but that would be interesting. Players are now able to accept dive master missions in the large fishing village. This one's really important. Caves / underground lighting has now been scaled back during parts of the day. So I guess this makes sense. There's some monuments that have lighting and caves and everything like that. But the fact that they mentioned caves and underground lighting, it made me think maybe there's caves coming. The airborne thing, I think that was a little bit more of a sure thing. But this, it makes me think maybe they're doing some testing with caves. Maybe they've been paying a little bit more attention to it because I get it. Like there's a few monuments that have caves under. Actually, a lot of monuments have little like tunnels and caves under them. But like, I don't know. It feels like there might be something going on with this. Maybe I'm reaching. Oxygen levels no longer show when a player exits the water while wearing a dive tank. There's some fixes with horse animations. There's some stuff talking about grass spawning in different places. And they've got one about safe zones. It's sort of interesting. The hostile timer radius around the safe zones has been set to a reasonable size. So most likely this, in my opinion, means that safe zones are less likely to tag you as hostile if you have combat all out in the middle of nowhere. So they fixed some shadows, bullet holes don't glow when shooting at boars, projectiles no longer fly through the metal shop front, that's sort of important. Players can't glitch into concrete supports of electrical pylons. The only reason I read this is because I'm sure a few of you have been doing it. If you have, like, I don't know why you're doing it, but congrats. Bullets no longer pass through the recycler room window. The small shark model is now the correct size, so it's probably smaller. Player's skin color is no longer mismatched between first-person view and in-menu. So those of you who identified as multiple skin colors, one got picked for you. And they fixed FPS issues in the forest biome during the day. Now let's jump into items. Ceiling lights can be repaired. They changed the crafting recipe for stone spear and the hide poncho to match Steam. Deployable garage doors now match Steam. They said seam, but I'm assuming they mean Steam, and no longer degrade in durability. Tool cupboard upkeep costs now match Steam. Harpoon model no longer missing when reloading spear gun. The kayak can now be deployed. Chainsaw activation now has a higher success rate, so that's sort of important because like chainsaw, that's like the end game wood farming tool. The fact that it succeeds more likely than not is always good for us players who like to farm. Vending machines now show the cost of items. Skinned default satchel charges can no longer be stacked when merging in the world. I don't know exactly what that means, but cool. Fixed visual issues with the Thompson causing an artifact to be seen for a brief moment when reloading. Pressure pads can no longer be stacked up to 3 times. The key lock can no longer create keys while it is locked. And this one's interesting. They fixed an assault rifle recoil issue when muzzle brake and silencer are attached. So the assault rifle recoil has changed a little bit if you're using those 2 specific attachments. There's been some audio fixes. They noted a few of them, but none of them really seem that interesting. There's some water stuff, some horse stuff, and a few bugs have been fixed. For the UI, there's been a bunch of different changes. A lot of them really don't matter. The only one I'm really going to call out is the hostile timer and icon are no longer visible when HUD is off. So I think for some of you that might be a surprise. Maybe if you got the HUD off and all of a sudden that hostile icon disappears, you're going to run into a safe zone and get shot. So for those of you that are masochists playing with the HUD off, just a heads up, the masochism just got a lot worse. There's a few other things. There's a few other bugs that they fixed, but not a big deal. And then other changes, there's a few hangs, a few issues, a few sort of like bugs and crashes that have been fixed, but I don't think any of this stuff is too crazy. There's been a trophy and achievement adjustment, but generally the way that works is any trophies and achievements you already got, you're going to have them. It probably just made it a little bit easier for people or a little bit harder for people to give them a little bit more oomph. I don't know, to play the game, I guess. And yeah, that's about it. I don't really have too much more to add to this. There's just been some boost fixes, stuff like that. Like a lot of technical stuff that you're going to notice, but not things I need to read to you because it doesn't really matter to the average player, except just telling them the game's going to run smoother now. So yeah, that is the Rust 1.83 patch. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. If there's any bugs or things or issues that you run into, let me know down below in the comments because I'm interested. And if it's bad enough, I might just make a video. Or if it's good enough, I might just make a video. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, peace.